You are your own worst enemy. All those feelings flood you, and you have to get past them. In order to do any kind of movement at all, you have to get rid of shame, you have to get rid of guilt, you have to get rid of doubt, you have to get rid of so many things. If you're not going to be transparent, then there's no point in being there. You have to be an open book in order to beat that addiction. I have to be transparent, I have to be vulnerable, I have to be accountable. You're not going to do it on your own. You cannot do it on your own. How many people have tried and failed miserably? You have to get help.
What is going on? Chris here with yet another video, coming at you with somebody who's coming to us from our exclusive Reboot implementation program. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to getting to know this guy and introducing him to you, somebody who has been very vulnerable, very open, and very just a very active participant in our program, and I think has a story that is not only unfolding before our very eyes, but I think it's something that really anybody at any Reboot level can take away from and find some inspiration in. So I am here with the man, the myth. I'm here with Jamie today. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing well, thanks, Chris. Nice to be here.
Yeah, man. Really, and honestly, really a pleasure to have you with us. Let's start from the very beginning. Really, before we dive into some of the progress you've made so far with the Reboot program, really starting from the actual very beginning, how did you find the Reboot program to begin with?
It was good. So GT was the gentleman that I talked to in the very beginning, and GT was pretty straightforward, kind of told me what to expect and where it went, and that you had to literally be accepted into the program, which I thought was kind of different, that you could actually be turned away. So that whole interview in the very beginning was very eye-opening, very inspirational. I found it, I think I knew when I heard JK's podcast. It was with a university here in Ottawa, because I'm in Canada, and it was a podcast he had with Carleton University. And when I heard that on the radio, I knew that this was the place for me.
From what you can remember, what was it about that broadcast that made you say, what, this seems worth looking into?
Everything was just me. At that particular time in my life, my wife had found stuff on my phone again, and this had happened many times. And I kept saying and trying on my own for 50 years to eliminate pornography from my life, and was not having any kind of success. So I knew I had to do something. And in the past, I have looked for counselors and stuff like that and tried to join SAA. And none of that was really for me. I couldn't relate to a lot of the stuff, unfortunately. There was some pretty sadistic stuff in some of those groups. And so when I heard JK talking about his program and the success rates and just everything that was implemented in it, he talked about shame, he talked about guilt, he talked about the way forward, and that you're not your story, and just everything that I heard within about a 10-minute blurb on the radio made me understand that I had to seek out or try to find elevated recovery.
And here you are. So
yeah, and here I am.
So you have this conversation with GT. Shout out to GT, one of our Reboot strategists. And then you are accepted into the group. What are some of your first impressions of the program?
And I remember talking to you about this, but at the very beginning, it was being overwhelmed. And you said that's normal, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And if you hadn't felt that way, and that's how I felt. It really was. But maybe a lot of other people don't know, I'm not a real tech savvy guy. I had to work through even getting a Zoom call, adding comments to the chats, and how to raise your hand and all that simple stuff. But for me, it was new. It was all new. So I knew that for me, journaling was going to be a huge part of this journey, just from some of the stuff I read on the private groups and seeing stuff posted that people had put down. Journaling became a daily routine for me. And then the feelings exercise, and as they laid out all the different steps, what was nice is I could do them at my own pace too. I'm a pretty busy person, but still I make time to get involved in the Zoom meetings, as many as I can every week. I try to participate as much as I can. I get so much out of those, as well as reading what the brothers put down and how they deal with urges and stuff like that. So that's kind of in the beginning. I found there was an awful lot of material. I went out right away, bought the book, Breaking the Cycle, got into reading it. I had another one at the time, so I'm working at both of those actually because I like to literally work at them. I just don't want to speed read them and say, "Oh, well, okay, that was good. What did you get from it?" So your call, breaking the cycle, is a good one for me too. It's unfortunate I joined 3/4 of the way through that book, but I know you're restarting it, so I'll be there to do the restart. So that was, I guess, my first opinion was, okay, it's going to be a lot, but I'm in the right place.
And I honestly appreciate you just flat out saying that, because I'll say to you what I've said to you before. The reason why that sense of nervousness, like what's going on, there's a lot of modules to watch, there's a lot of information to take in for sure. But that sort of cognitive dissonance is to be expected, really due to our own conditioning. We've been so
Mm.
used to dealing with things and operating in such a specific kind of way that anything that comes to kind of challenge that, or our moves to interrupt that pattern, if you will, there's bound to be that, whoa, wait a minute. This isn't how we function. This isn't what we do. This isn't who Jamie is or who Chris is. It's to be expected, and it's part of the process. And I want to
Mm.
hear a little bit about that process as far as tools that you've learned that have been of benefit to you. Like you mentioned the feelings exercise, as far as adjusting into that new pattern, as far as adjusting into that new Jamie, that new way of functioning. What have been some tools that you've learned so far that have helped you out?
Well, the feelings exercise is the number one for me. It really was. It's really hard, and I've always been told this, to stop beating yourself up. And you are your own worst enemy, like they always say. And of course, all those feelings flood you. They just flood you. And you have to get past them in order to do any kind of movement at all. To me, in this program, there's no point in trying to move forward if you can't deal with your feelings. You need to straighten them out in order to understand and go forward. And of course, the ultimate goal is intimacy for me, plain and simple. But to get there, you have to get rid of shame. You have to get rid of guilt. You have to get rid of doubt. You have to get rid of so many things. So, first, just understanding my own feelings was huge. Okay. That's a real big one. And then some of the things that you have to stop to do, like the phrase sober, stop, observe, breathe, expand, resolve. Things like that were great tools for me. And I think I find a lot of those in the open calls, the Zoom calls. There's a lot of input in all those. And when you have professional help telling you different ways to approach situations, anger was always a pretty big issue with me. So that stop, observe, breathe, boundaries. Boundaries is huge, huge. And I never had boundaries. I would always let people push back, push back, push back. Now I've made boundaries. I'm very aware of them. So for me, that's great. It's the book. The book is excellent. Breaking the Cycle. To me, that's an excellent book too, because it has so many comparable stories that I can relate to, and I'm sure most of the brothers can.
Yeah.
It's just that there's excellent stuff everywhere, but I would say boundaries is big, feelings is big. The modules are good for sure. There's no doubt about it. Taking them in time, like they come out faster than I can actually process them, but I always have them to go back on and to look at. JK's blurbs are always great when he talked about edging and stuff like that and how that's actually worse for your brain. That's all information I would have never known. So there is a lot of it, but the information part of it is excellent as well.
Absolutely. And to your point of that emotional awareness, like you said, like discovering your feelings, like a big goal for many brothers is to not just have like a better sense of control over our emotions to the point where they're not overall running our decision making, but perhaps like letting go of like certain narratives or like certain
Mhm.
emotions that had been sort of running the show, whether
Yep.
consciously or subconsciously, for a long time. And I know one thing for me that really helped out in order to kind of get that refined perspective was the coaching calls.
Mhm.
Because how can you help organize yourself when you don't even know what's there, you know?
Exactly.
So talk to me about your experience with the coaching calls.
Well, there's just every one of them is excellent, and they're so different, which is nice.
Yeah.
Like Orestes' calls, like I didn't know it in the beginning, and he almost puts you in a trance there, and I can actually almost be put in a trance. It's incredible how calming that man can be. There's a bit of silkiness in his voice or something, but those calls are really good. Of course, I love Dr. Rankins on Fridays. I find him to be a very intelligent man whose life experiences, because he's older like myself, I can relate to. And Dr. Eastman's calls too are just top notch, top notch. And 21 or 22 brothers on the last one, like that's a big group, which is kind of a drag because you don't maybe get to say as much because there's so much, only so much airtime. But yeah, they're phenomenal. They're really good and so helpful, so insightful. And I leave everyone with more information than I can actually process. So I spend literally days after repeating, going over, thinking about the stuff that's said and how to be that better person or not to let certain things run your life.
Right. Yeah. No, that's powerful stuff, man. And this is why we say all the time, I mean, having that expertise is just, oh my gosh, like a privilege, legitimately. Let's call it what it is. But community is literally
Mhm.
the antidote to isolation. Getting that perspective and just hearing the other questions and the stories from the other guys, it's that sense of, oh, other people are thinking what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Oh, other people are experiencing what I'm experiencing and maybe can relate to what I'm feeling or going through, which is sort of kind of a nice segue into the Facebook group, the overall community. I'm curious as to what your experience has been like with that.
It's been good now. I'll say, be honest. I think this is, I'm going to say, a young man's group of people. Like, to me, there's only two other lads that I know that are even close to my age. So I relate to a lot of it, but some of it's not really up my alley when lads are weightlifting and doing that kind of stuff. Well, I'm 68 years old. My weightlifting days are far over. Now I weightlift with a shovel or whatever, but a pitchfork. But anyway, it's good for them, and I know it's all about trying to do routine and feel good about yourself, which is great stuff. But there's a lot of insight in the win walls and stuff like that, and I like to read things like that and see routines. What are some people's routines? And of course, everybody's routine is different because we all live a different life. But yeah, I must say I do a lot of reading there. Of course, I don't do any posting because I'm still trying to get there. Someday I will. But it's helpful, but I still don't think it's as helpful as our coaching sessions, personally.
I appreciate the honesty. I mean, there certainly are, I mean, there's a plethora of posts that are made from brothers all around the world every
Yeah,
single day.
yeah.
And just the sense of getting that insight and getting that, like I said, sense of community can really, really be medicinal.
And the one thing that I find interesting is some of the brothers that have kind of not walked away, but maybe not been as active, who come back and say, oh boy, okay, that wasn't what I should have been doing. This is what I should have been doing. And I'm going to set my calendar and make these calls. And of course, you hear that on the calls too. Like, this is the first time I've been in the program almost a year, and this is the first time I've ever been on one of these calls. Well, for me, that stuff is important to hear and read so that I don't become that person that kind of drifts off.
Yeah.
I believe it's important to stay involved, active, and that becomes my routine, is to stay that way. And luckily, which I've mentioned, I think maybe to you before or in the group, I'm at an age where I can do that because I'm retired. I understand perfectly a lot of the brothers, they're searching for jobs or looking for jobs. They're not in financial great places, and it evolves. That's their circle. Mine is the complete opposite end of that spectrum. And I can feel for them because I went through all that as a 25, 30-year-old, 40-year-old. I witnessed all that. So that's where it's kind of nice, like you said, to have that balance, those older guys that can kind of help those younger guys get through these hard times.
Yeah, that iron sharpening iron idea. It's that community where we can sort of pour into each other's situations. So,
Yeah.
and legitimately, you have done, whether you realize it or not, a really, really great job at that. Like, I love the way you participate in the group coaching calls, and you're very transparent. You're
Yeah.
very just, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I'm feeling, these are maybe some doubts I have, but this is what I'm doing about it. I mean, why do you think it's so important to just say the thing?
Hmm.
Like, why do you
Yeah.
think it's important to just kind of
Yeah.
just be open?
And you have to be, eh? To move forward. And we talk about that. You have to be transparent. And I do believe, and I know I've mentioned this, but I spent 2.5 years in Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you're not going to be transparent, then there's no point in being there. You're an open book, and you have to be an open book in order to beat that addiction. And this is just another one. And so I kind of already know how I have to be in order to beat this one. I have to be transparent. I have to be vulnerable. I have to be accountable. I've got all those things that I know I need to be, but again, I couldn't do those on my own. Not when it came to this. I needed help when it came to this, like I did with AA. That I needed help too.
No, that's great. And from there, there's actually a question that I typically ask on calls like these, but it essentially has to do with that pouring into others sort of idea. Like, let's imagine for a moment you come into contact with somebody who is struggling with an out of control behavior, namely the ones we deal with in this.
Mhm.
Having experienced what you've experienced so far, having learned what you've learned so far, knowing that this brother is just struggling in silence in the way that you and I know about very well. Is there anything that you would want to share with that person? Is there anything that you would want to tell that person?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can go a little bit farther. There's a young lad down the road from where I live. He's 30 some years old. And recently he was charged with voyeurism. And his father and I are close, very close. We're very close, maybe not so much now, but they have isolated themselves because now the young lad's on house arrest and he's up on charges of voyeurism and all kinds of other things. So I mentioned to my wife the other day that at some point here, I'm going to have a talk with his father and say, look, this is where I'm at. I may have some insight for you. I may be able to help you because another neighbor told me that he was talking to the father and the father broke down and started crying because his son has been caught for this and he's a very proud man. So I think of ways that I can approach a situation like that and have some type of an input. I have absolutely no qualms about passing on if I'm approached by anybody or if I knew somebody that was struggling. I'd have no problem. I've confided in one of my children and told them, and she's been a big inspiration and help for me. Understands because she's from the new generation, like you guys that are all used to devices and computers and that kind of thing. So, yeah, I Chris, would have no problem reaching out my hand to help a brother who was struggling. There's absolutely no question in my mind.
I love that. And I really, really do appreciate that. So before I let you go, let's imagine for a moment, because I mean, we likely don't even have to imagine if somebody comes across this video or audio, whatever this ends up becoming. If somebody comes across this conversation between us, clearly it's because they have some sort of history with a sexually compulsive behavior, and
Right.
the
Right.
odds are pretty darn high that they want to do away with it. So knowing that there might be somebody who is still on that struggle bus, that's still on the fence of what should I do, how should I do it? Is there anything that you would want to specifically suggest or say to a person who might be in need of some of that help?
Yeah. The biggest thing for me, excuse me, is get help. Get help. It's that simple. You're not going to do it on your own. You cannot do it on your own. How many people have tried and failed miserably? Like you have to get help. help. And it's funny you should mention this quickly. I'll just mention the other day when we had a talk with, at the end of Breaking the Cycle, with David, David Zapiti. If this pornography is ever literally classified as an addiction, which I know for a fact it's not yet. Alcoholism is, drug addiction, that stuff. There's all kinds of government assisted programs. There's help out there. You can find people to help with those addictions. Now, if pornography ever becomes labeled an addiction, a true addiction, then people that are not financially stable may be able to seek help and get into programs that they can afford to do. Because unfortunately, right now, especially in Canada, there's not an awful lot of counselors that know anything about it. They know lots about relationships, drugs, alcohol, but that pornography one, even though it is an addiction, and I couldn't agree more, there's not enough help out there. And especially for younger guys who may be struggling and trying to find help, that's a big, big problem.
No, I would agree. And sort of a follow-up to that, would you in turn recommend this program?
Oh, absolutely. Now, financially, I know because there's a big difference, like 50, I'll say it, I think $5,400 American came to 8,600 Canadian. So that's a big difference because of the American and Canadian dollar. That's a commitment I'm not sure younger guys can do. And Adam in our group, if I can mention his name, commented that he almost dropped the call because when he heard the price tag, it scared him. But I'm a 68-year-old retired man and it scared me. But is it worth it, Chris? There's no doubt about it. It's worth every friggin' penny, and I'll say that. But I can see how it would scare the younger generation off because that's a bloody car payment.
Sure, no, I completely understand that. And I'll just be honest, I remember having my own conversation with GT. This is going on 5 years ago, which is crazy to say
Mhm.
out loud. But we had a great conversation and we were talking about price, and I had that moment there. Like I was not exactly coming from money, but I mean exactly like you said, and not even trying to
Yeah.
make it more than what it is. It was the single most important
Mhm.
investment I ever made. Because first of all, I mean, my running joke is that when I first found elevator recovery and the reboot program, just because of my own history with compulsive behaviors, the last thing on my mind was ending up with a job.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what's more important is, little did I know, it gave me an avenue to not only receive the facilitation,
Yeah.
counseling, and information to help me heal and the community to hold me accountable to that. It radically changed my life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the thing that you'd have to try to get across to a younger person is that, or whoever, this is the only thing that can save you. Like you need to do this. And then, like I said, that salesman part of me would get that point across. There's no doubt about it. But that's the only, and honestly, Chris, all the doctors and everything, I realize the cost involved and stuff like that. To have professional help like that, like you said, that's a gift. Honestly a gift. You would pay $200 to go and sit for an hour with one of these doctors, and here you have a free hour. Well, free, but it's involved in the price, but yeah, it's just I see it as an issue, but that's because I'm in Canada. Like it's quite a bit more money, but yeah, it's a no-brainer, that's for sure. It's great.
I'm happy to hear that, man. And legitimately, I'm very excited to see your continued progress, your continued participating, and I'm only a message away. But thank you so much for making and taking the time. All the best to you, Jamie. Thank you so, so